Hi, I'm Jonathan. Welcome to the BA Brew podcast.
I'm Nicole.
That's terrible, Mike. That is terrible. It's the saying of 2020, isn't it? You're on mute.
I wasn't on mute.
I know,
I
but
just magically lost my voice.
we have to put that in. Given that today's pod's about virtual working, it's the perils of technology and that interface between you and your laptop or you and your iPad or whatever it is that you're using. So virtual working then, Mike. What are your thoughts on it? Good, bad, indifferent?
Mixed. It was a challenge to start with, but there's a lot to learn, a lot of different things to pick up on a virtual environment, and it's taken me a while to kind of adjust to it. I guess the thing I found really tough is trying to remember that actually we're people and we need to have some of those people chats and things rather than just getting into a meeting and, like we're doing now, straight into the material and talking about the subject and that, and these sort of, you kind of miss the how are you, how are things going with you, because you kind of feel that you've got to focus straight away on the theme, the agenda that you've got for this particular meeting. So just remembering, actually, we're all people, we're all in slightly different environments, and there are some other challenges with that.
Yeah, and those kind of water cooler, sorry, you don't get coffee cooler, do you? Chats, they're gone, aren't they, in this environment, unless you set up a place where you can do it, I think, and it takes a bit more thought, but not impossible, I think, but does take a bit more effort.
Yeah, you've got to pre-plan your spontaneity, which is a rather tricky thing.
That's kind of against it, isn't it? Nicole, in the pre-pod warm-up, you were telling us about some virtual charades. How did you get on with your virtual charades?
Yeah, so it was actually a really good exercise, trying to host a social gathering virtually, with obviously lots of people on the call. So we had a charades game. So everyone's on mute. The person who's doing the acting gets privately sent the word or TV program that they're going to act out. They do it on camera, and all the other participants drop their suggestions or guesses into the chat. So it was really good, actually. It encouraged all those people that don't want to be on camera to come out and have some fun. I think that's what's most difficult when I'm hosting calls or webinars sessions, that you're talking to an audience that you can't see, you can't gauge interaction, facial expressions, those quizzical looks.
Yeah.
So do you like to encourage people to
that lack
their
of
faces?
That lack of facial recognition is something that can be problematic. But it might be the person is working on a laptop that hasn't got a webcam, or their corporate firewalls lock down the video, and so you kind of got to be accepting of it. But it's still really frustrating when you're trying to make a connection with someone and you've only got a voice, so you're not able to see the facial expression. So really quite tricky. I was wondering if we could play some charades. Nicole, have you got one that you could demo for us, just to see if Mike and I can get it, and any of the viewers? I don't know whether or not this is going to work.
No,
I'll go in the outtakes. You can say no, Nicole. Say no.
Okay, this is hopefully an easy one. So you're familiar with the action, so like book, film. Okay, so ready?
It's a film.
Yeah.
2 words.
Yeah.
First word.
Okay, so it's a name, so that might be more difficult. So I'm just going to act out what it's called. So
It's like a wizard. Harry Potter.
Yes.
And
1 point.
So it's one of the things that came out of lockdown for us. We watched all of the Harry Potter films for the first time. I was previously a little bit against Harry Potter, I have to admit. I've met far too many people who are massive Harry Potter enthusiasts, and it just put me off. So I don't know, the kids wanted to watch it, so we decided we'd watch it over the lockdown. So we watched every single Harry Potter film. So hence, I don't know, I felt that was a good one to choose, Nicole. So thanks for making an easy one for us. Stories about working from home. Producer Tom, and I know he's desperate to appear on the pod at some point, and hopefully we'll get him on. at least for a segue segment at some point. Producer Tom's got a funny story that he shared with us in our pre-pod warm-up. He's on a call with his boss, and his dad comes in wearing his pants and bringing him a cup of tea.
Yeah, it's
just
not the way you want to have your video call with your boss, is it? Really?
Just, I don't know, you couldn't make it up, and it's just, I don't know. I haven't had one as bad as that, but the dog barking when the postman comes, or I don't know, there's suddenly being a noise that you weren't expecting in the background. It's just these little mishaps that happen, and it can be quite challenging. Nicole, I think you might have a story that might trump the producer Tom's dad in his pants.
I have a couple of stories. So one time back in the summer, which seems like so long ago now, I decided, right, let's change it up. Dialing into a call, didn't need to be on camera for this particular call, went and sat outside in the garden. A couple of minutes into the call, a bird came along and pooed on my notepad. So luckily a near miss, not quite on the laptop, but I could hardly ring up the office and say, sorry, my laptop's not working. A bird pooed on it. So had that one. And when I was actually hosting a workshop online, I had to pause it mid-flow as my neighbour's cat jumped over the gates. And again, it was on a very hot day, so the patio doors wide open. And it's not a very well-trained cat, so I just have visions of it coming into the house, messing up things. So all these things.
I've found I've met quite a few people's dogs, cats. I haven't met any rodents yet, no hamsters or rats or anything. It's quite something, because we're in each other's homes a lot of the time. So we're suddenly in each other's homes, and there's a little bit of it where I think there's a little bit more connection than you would otherwise get, because you can see someone's, I don't know, interior decorating choices, and you can see their home office in a way that you might not have done before. Any mishaps with?
I was going to say, I met quite a few pets on the call, or heard quite a few pets.
Children.
The first occurrence of a bearded dragon on a call the other day. That's a new one. I think that's the rarest pet I've seen. I don't know whether we should play pet bingo on our Zoom and Teams meetings.
We could set up a competition for the person who attends one of our virtual meets that's got the most random pet. I don't know. I'm not sure if that will work.
Maybe something like that. Yeah, and I've spoken to quite a few people's children who've been studying at home and have come with a question from mum or dad, and I don't think I've been any help on their homework, but it's been nice to have a chat, and they come up and they wave, and I sort of wave back. It's really nice actually, because you kind of you do sort of get some slightly different social interactions that you wouldn't get in the office space, because those people aren't there, which is interesting.
It's kind of bringing your whole self to work, in terms of you're not just your job title and your name. You because of this level of connectivity that you can get in these environments, you are meeting people's children, or their favorite dog, cat, whatever it is, bearded dragon. And so I think there are some small advantages of it. How are you finding your commutes, guys?
more difficult, if I'm being honest. Because you don't have to be out the door so for me, 8 o'clock, bang on the dot. 2 minutes late, I will be late for work, sort of thing. So not having that strict routine is in some ways a lot harder. I'm commuting from the bedroom to the office.
So I'm struggling with that lack of routine, and just generally the exercise I get when I'm commuting. So if I'm going into London, I walk for a good hour a day, half an hour to my venue, half an hour home from the venue, and I'm just not doing that. So it's kind of that structure. It's just not there in the same way. So I'm having to think about, right, my lunch break. I'm going out, I'm walking the dog, or I'm walking around the block, and it's a bit more effort to build in those structured exercise, whatever it is you need to do in your routine.
It's interesting, because it's not just exercise, it's actually, I find it's thinking time as well, because if you're walking around or you're driving or whatever you're doing, sitting on the train, or you can actually think about things a bit more and chew them over. So actually that's quite challenging. The other thing I find that's difficult as well is that because you haven't got to be in the office at a certain time, or you haven't got the same cues that everybody's leaving at the same time. You can completely lose track of what the time is, and you realize you've not been and had a cup of tea or something. And that's particularly challenging. I've noticed now that my son and daughter have gone back to university, and the days when my wife's working, that I'm the only one in the house. And the only time I might get some kind of indication there's anybody else around is when the postman comes to the door and the dogs go a bit ballistic, and it's like, oh, what's the time? Oh, I probably ought to do something else now. And sort of finishing as well, because you're not seeing that your colleagues putting their coats on and going, or turning their computers down. So turning down. Turns their computer down. So you're missing some of those other cues, and if you're really engaged in some kind of activity, you sort of you might not notice what time it is.
So I think that drive to and from work is really important though, because it gets you ready for the day, and then on the way home it's that compartmentalizing, isn't it? Especially if you've had a tough day, it's that period where you're focusing on work and your mind's not on work, and you've just got that 20, 30, 40 minutes of doing nothingness. Whereas when you're switching off your laptop and then going downstairs or moving from the kitchen to the living room, something like that, there's no time to do that. And that's the challenge I found, separating work and life. You're in the same room of the house, you're not physically leaving and going to an office. So it's that mindset of I've left work here and now it's interpersonal time. I think that's definitely been a struggle.
It's I think, I don't know, the mental health implications of lockdown and working from home. There's lots of potential extra anxiety and stress because of this, not able to separate work and home as easily, feeling like you've always got to be on, always online. If someone rings you on Zoom or Teams, that you feel like you have to respond, where if you're in the office, that wouldn't be the case because you'd be busy. But we seem to put ourselves under pressure. And I know I rang you the other, I think it was last week, Nicole, and the audio connection was really bad. I was like, Nicole, what's going on? And you were like, oh, I'm just getting out of the car. And I was like, well, why didn't you tell me? And then I would have called you back half an hour later or an hour later, because it wasn't precious. But there's something around, I think, psychological safety, that it's okay not to be online, and it's okay to have a lunch break, and just being open. I know that we all kind of think about these things differently, but just because you're working from home doesn't mean that you're a robot and you're trying to chain to your laptop. You are allowed to go and have a walk and a break and go get yourself a cup of tea and things. It's we're human.
The other thing that I've tried to remind myself about every so often is that I don't actually need to do stuff at the computer all the time. I can take stuff away and work on a notebook or on a pad and produce material. I don't need to be sitting in front of the computer. And if I was working in the office, I wouldn't be sitting in front of the computer all the time. I'd be going and talking to people. I'd be in meetings. So actually, it's quite healthy to give yourself a bit of a break from the screen every so often.
Is there anything either of you have enjoyed about virtual working so far? Is there any positives that you've got from it, other than your commute?
I think that, like, the flexibility that it offers. So you're not sat in traffic for 30, 40 minutes. You can go for that run. So I've definitely been exercising more. I started couch to K. I've been able to make it to the gym because you can ensure that you get there in your time slot now that we have to book. But just the convenience, I think you can pop your wash on during your lunch. We had a bird strike on the windscreen on the way back from holiday, which was never good. And things like being able to book getting the windscreen replaced. You can be at home, answer the door, they get on with it, and just little things like that, I think, really
taking deliveries in and those kind of things. It can be quite good. Mike, anything you've enjoyed about it?
Well, one thing I've definitely enjoyed, which has not necessarily been a good thing, is the proximity of the food cupboard. the plain chocolate digestives have had such a hammering because they're there. I can go downstairs and make myself a cup of tea, and oh, what's in that cupboard? Oh, what a surprise! It's the plain chocolate digestives. Oh, and there's a new pack if I finish this pack. So yeah, that's been a bit naughty. So it's been good that I've been able to run.
I think milk chocolate digestives are far superior, if I'm honest, mate.
There's a little bit of a debate over that. There's the thickness of the milk chocolate now on digestives is much thinner, so you don't get the same chocolate hit unless you have the plain chocolate. You need to do a taste test, Jonathan.
I've got to read taste test. Where are you on this debate, Nicole?
So I've actually discovered candy floss grapes in lockdown.
Oh yeah.
So you feel like you're being healthy, but I'm not sure if you are.
Wow.
They're very high sugar, but they are very nice.
They are very nice. Otherwise, I'd definitely go for the milk chocolate digestive, I think, or a hobnob perhaps.
Chocolate hobnobs, wow.
Yes, a chocolate hobnob.
Available, guys.
There's so many things in the working from home environment or the virtual working environment, like the tools, for example, that there's so many tools out there. And one of the things I've been impressed with is that the tools manufacturers have not sort of rested on their laurels and just said, this is what we've got, you use it, and just sort of sat back and watched the money roll in. They have actually enhanced the products and produced new features on them that every few weeks I come across something else. Oh, that's really handy. That's quite a useful thing to have. So actually keep seeing that and seeing the new possibilities there has been really good.
The features, yeah. I've quite liked the fact that I can catch up with colleagues over, so maybe a colleague I've not spoke to for a few years, but suddenly it's okay to speak on Zoom or Teams or whichever video conferencing platform, and that kind of proximity of people, suddenly we're a bit closer. It's easier to have that catch up over a coffee over Zoom than it would be traveling to a different city and traveling. So I think that there are some advantages, but it's certainly something we're all getting used to, and I think we're going to have to get used to even more going forward. But I think we should wrap it up there, guys. So thanks for joining us with our podcast. If you've got any questions or suggestions for topics we can cover in future pods, please do contact us. Our email address is babrew@assistkd.com. Thank you.